All right, guys, let's get started. Thank you so much for taking some time of your Saturday morning to join this session. Before we get started, let me give you a quick introduction about myself. My name is Patrick. Part of the Hadoop and Real World team. I've been working or involved with Hadoop for about 5.5 years, and I've been teaching Hadoop for about 4.5 years now, right? And I live in Chicago. So that's a short introduction about myself. I would like to hear from you guys just a couple of things, right? Where are you guys from? And are you guys enrolled in the course currently? Or you are you familiar with the course? If you're enrolled with the course, how far along are you in the course? Meaning, did you guys finish the course, or you guys finished 50% or whatever, right? So just let me know, where you guys from, and have you enrolled with the course, and if enrolled, have you completed the course? All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, that's great. So we have responses coming in. Um, and someone is from New Jersey. That is perfect. Do we have people outside of United States joining in? Right. Okay, perfect. So we have someone from India joining in. Yeah, we have people enrolled in the course currently, and they're doing the PIC chapter. And we have people completed about 40% of the course. That's all great. That's awesome. Do we have anyone who is not enrolled in the course? Excellent. We have someone from Finland. We have someone from Arizona. Perfect, guys. That's all awesome. That's all awesome. And we have someone who have seen our tutorials on YouTube. That's all great. That's all great. So what are we going to look at today? Before we talk about that, let me share my screen. All right, perfect. Okay, before we talk about what we're going to cover today, what I want to talk about first is why this session, right? So the reason we are hosting a session like this, because we want to see our students successful in Hadoop, right? And what I mean by that, I'm not just saying that successful in the sense you complete the course end to end, right? That is not what I mean. Okay, successful in the course in the sense that you should have control and command over the concepts that we cover in Hadoop, right? It's not just watching the video end to end, right? That doesn't give us a lot. What we want to make sure here is we want you to be successful. And when we mean successful, we mean that you have control and command over the concepts that we cover in the course. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? So this, let me just hide this. So in today's session, we're going to see some tips to get the most out of the course. I know and I understand we have some people in the Hangout room now who's not enrolled in the course, but this session is geared more towards the folks who are already enrolled and to give them some tips to get the most out of the course. And after that, we'll also talk about your questions. You probably have some questions. You're probably struggling with a concept or something like that, that you would like to ask, and we would love to answer, right? And for people who are not enrolled in the course yet, you can know more about the course by sticking around, right? And we will also talk about the course updates. What is upcoming in the course. When we went live, we made it very clear that the course is going to be fluid. The course is going to be a living course, meaning big data, the domain of big data is fastly changing. It's rapid, right? It's very fluid. We have new tools coming in. We have new versions coming out, almost every couple of months or so. So we want to be, keep the course live and updated. And also there are so many tools to be covered as well. So we will be giving some updates on what we are doing, what we are working on, and we'll also love to hear about how we can help you more. Okay, so that is the agenda for today's session. All right, so let's get into it. All right, getting the most out of the course, right? And what I mean by that is, very clearly, it is not finishing the videos end to end. Okay, so it is basically understanding the concepts thoroughly and moving forward. Okay, so tip number one is stick with the course structure. And that is an important tip. Okay, so if you look at our course, right, we have different sections. We have categorized our topics into different sections, right, starting from introduction and all the way to HDFS, MapReduce, Apache Pig, Hive, etc. Right? So why do we say stick with the structure of the course? Because when we designed the course, we went through a lot about the structure, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Where should cluster setup go, right? If you look at other courses, you would see that the cluster setup or setting up a Hadoop cluster is covered in probably the first or the second chapter. But if you look at our course, we don't talk about cluster setup until like section 8, right? And why is that? To think about this, right? Let's say you're trying to learn a guitar, right? Of course, you need to have access to a guitar, but you don't have to build a guitar first, right? For you to learn the guitar, right? So that is entirely the concept here, right? We wanted to learn the concepts, but that doesn't mean you should know how to set up a cluster first. And if you start with cluster setup at the very beginning, you're lost because you don't know the concepts. You don't know the jargons we are trying to we're trying to discuss in those chapters, right? You don't have the architecture. You don't have the architecture and concepts of Hadoop covered yet. So covering cluster setup at the very beginning, it's probably the wrong thing to do. And we see other courses doing exactly that, which is so wrong, right? But if you don't know, you may ask, right? If you don't know how would you practice Hadoop if you don't have access to a cluster? The answer is very simple, and that for that very reason, we give you access to our own Hadoop cluster hosted on Amazon Cloud along with this course. So if if any one of you guys don't have the access to the cluster yet, let us know. Send us a message through Udemy, right? And we will make sure you have the right access. Almost all our students do have access to the cluster, but some students, they don't have access to the cluster, right? So make sure you have access to the cluster. So going back to the tip, right? Stick with the course structure. So we start from HDFS, and then we go into MapReduce. We talk about Pig, Hive, architecture, cluster setup, and then we go into more advanced concepts. All right, so that is tip number one. Stick with the course structure, right? Tip number two, do not skip topics, right? We see this over and over and over, right? And people skip topics for two reasons, right? The very first reason is people would think, or students think, that they know certain concepts so that they can skip it over, right? For example, when you started getting your interest into Hadoop, right? You probably looked up Google, and you went across some HDFS tutorials, you went across some MapReduce tutorials, and when you enroll in the course, right? You probably think, oh, I know these concepts already, right? I'm not going to cover them, right? I'm not going to spend time. I'm not going to spend like 13 minutes of my time going over the lecture 7, which is HDFS, why another file system. Bad idea, because we are going in depth even in those simple concepts, right? The concept of HDFS is very simple, but why do we need HDFS? That's a difficult question to answer, right? Because you need to know when there are other file systems already out there, like NTFS, CXT3, 4, and all that. Why do we need another file system? Okay, so do not skip topics thinking that I know this concept, I got it, right? Give us the benefit of doubt. Just go over the lecture. But if you're absolutely confident about certain topics, feel free to skip, right? We're not saying absolutely don't do it, but make sure you understand what we are trying to do here. Okay, so best practice, just give all the lectures a chance, right? And go over the lecture. Do not skip a lecture, right? The same thing goes for any chapter. If you take MapReduce, for instance, introduction to MapReduce, right? There are several free tutorials out there which already talks about MapReduce. Then why do you want to spend time on lecture 13? Because we break it down nicely. That's why, right? Because we go into a little detail. We go into the shuffle phase a little bit in depth, right? So that you understand and you're in the flow of topics. All right. And the second reason, people skip chapters is that they get excited over, certain topics, right? For example, when they look at MapReduce chapter, this Facebook mutual friends lecture might sound very interesting to some people, right? So they want to dive deep into that. Okay. Again, maybe a bad idea, because if you're not really certain about the other topics, you may run into issues, and we hear that a lot, right? So that's why I'm bringing it up. Especially it happens with our chapters at the very end, right? For example, the troubleshooting and optimization chapter. It happens, a lot of times students would directly go into troubleshooting and optimization, or they will directly go into cluster setup and start from there. Don't do it, right? Because especially troubleshooting, chapters like troubleshooting and optimization, we are covering concepts which are a little bit advanced, right? So if you haven't finished the pig chapter, you will never understand the pig join optimization part 1 and 2. The same goes for hive optimizations. Okay, so do not skip any topics just to get ahead, unless you're absolutely certain what you're trying to do. All right. So now let me just go over and ask you guys if you have any questions so far. I'll just give like few seconds, so that if you have any questions, you can type them over so that I can quickly answer them. All right, I got a question saying, is the session started? Is it only about the course? Yes, it is only about the course. We are trying to help students out who are already enrolled in the course to get the most out of it, right? And we're also going to cover the updates or any questions the students would have as they're going through the course. Yes. All right. So now I'm going over to tip number 3. We have almost 70 lectures in the course, right? And the total duration of the course in terms of just video hours is 14 hours, 14 plus hours, a little over 14 hours, right? And we have seen students, and I'm not kidding, we have seen students cramming all the concepts in a day. They look at, okay, so it's just 14 hours, right? I'm going to cram and finish this course in one day. Again, it's a bad idea, right? Because your goal is not to like complete the course by watching the video. That is not our goal here, right? So cramming all concepts in one day doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, you have to you have to go chapter by chapter, not just watching the video, but also practicing the assignments at the end of every chapter. Okay, practicing the assignments is great because you're going to ask a lot of questions and you're going to answer, and we are going to help you answer and clear a lot of your doubts. All right, so that's why answering and practicing what you learn is very, very important, right? And how you practice, again, we have a cluster, and all the students who enroll in the course have access to the cluster, and you can even bring write programs and run in the cluster, right? So take advantage of that, right? And definitely practice, try out all the exercises. You might feel that some exercises could be hard. Okay, some exercises could be hard, but that's where we come in. You can always come to us if you have any doubts, questions, and whatnot. And if you have already communicated with us, our response time. We respond pretty quickly. So I mean, it's not like you ask a question and it's going to be like 3 days before we answer, right? So we answer pretty quickly. So take that, use that for your advantage, right? And I have one more thing to say here. Especially we have students enrolled in the course who are not programmers by by design, right? Not by design, but their day to day is not programming. They're not writing code day to day. They could be database developers, database administrator. We have someone who is working in Teradata, right? And they don't have exposure to programming because that's not their day to day job. But they want to. They definitely interested in Hadoop and they're learning it because their job is moving towards a Hadoop environment, or they wanted to learn a new skill. Perfectly fine. But we have lectures in each chapters, especially in the MapReduce chapter, where we write a lot of code in Java, right? And if you're not from a programming background, you're probably thinking, how am I going to try these chapters? Should I skip these chapters? Should I come back to them later? Our advice is do not skip the chapter, or do not even skip a lecture just because you're seeing some Java code and you have no interest in learning or coding Java. That is totally fine, right? But still go through the video, complete the video from end to end, because even if you don't, even if you're not planning to write any code in Java, okay, you have to know the concepts, right? So it's absolutely important you understand the concepts, because every project in the course is designed or picked to give you some exposure to a new concept. Okay, so it is even if you're not planning to work, or even if you're not planning to work in Java or write a MapReduce program ever, right? Definitely go through the video, because the concepts is what is important, right? I'm going to give you a very quick example. So one of our assignments say that it uses a stocks data set to ask you to perform a simple operation to write a MapReduce program, and let's say calculate the average volume of each stock symbol for year 2009. Let's say that is the assignment, right? So if you're not a Java programmer, you don't have to write the Java program and work it out, but you should have a good idea of what the map face is and what's going to be the key value pairs from each mapper, right? And what's going to be the input to the reducer and all that. And you can write all that down, so that you understand what happens behind the scenes. Okay, so even if you're not planning to write a program, definitely lay down those those phases, and what is the input and what is the expected output. You can write just like a prototype, or like a flow chart kind of a thing, right? Makes sense? So definitely don't cramp everything in one day. Don't try to do that. Don't try to finish and rush the course as soon as possible. Take your time, try to do the exercises. Even if you're not a Java programmer, or even if you don't have a programming background, definitely go through the video. Don't skip the video because you don't come from a programming background. All right, the next one, the next step. our last step. Okay, how to get out when you're stuck. I see this. I see this over and over and over, right? People get stuck. Especially when they're trying out an exercise or when they're trying a concept, and they don't understand it. They don't feel like they understood it well. The two things would happen, right? You either forget about the concept. You would think like, I'm going to come back to this concept later, right? Let me go over the other parts of the course, right? You're going to say that, and or you're just staying right there trying to understand the concept. You have to understand very clearly, right? You guys are not alone in this. Okay, so start a discussion. So you are going through the course in Udemy, and to the right hand side, up on the top, you can click and add a discussion, right? You can start a discussion, and we will get notified, right? And we are watching it throughout the day, so that we can give you faster responses, right? So and we will answer your question. Okay, so if you are in doubt, don't hesitate to ask us questions. All right, users definitely ask a lot of questions, and especially when you're trying out exercises, you will have a lot of questions. And the field of big data could get complicated, right? Especially, our way of thinking was little different before the map reduce model and batch processing model and things like that. So it's definitely a new arena for us. So feel free to ask us questions. So we totally understand, right? Those questions are expected. So we are here to help. You can definitely start a discussion over there in Udemy, top right, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right. So don't feel like you're ever getting stuck, and don't stay at a lecture or don't stay at a single concept for a long time, or worse, don't skip a concept because you don't understand it. Get your doubts clarified. All right. So at this point, do we have any questions? So those are the tips that I wanted to share with you guys, right? And before we go into like the course updates, what is upcoming in the course, I want to open up the stage for you guys to ask me questions, right? The questions, what kind of questions? It could be anything that you have related to a concept, or we're going to cover like what is upcoming in the course. So hold off those questions, because I'm going to cover what is coming next. But if you have any other questions on the course, or anything around that area, this is the time to ask. Okay, so I'm receiving a question asking like the complimentary access that is provided with the course, that is the cluster access, I think. That's what one of our students here is asking. For how long the complimentary access is provided? Great question, right? So when we give you the access, yes, it is a complimentary access, right? But we give the access for 6 months, all right? So your user ID will be valid and working for 6 months. All right. So after that, let's say you wanted to try some program out, or you want to, you didn't finish the exercise within the 6 months, and you wanted to try it out, right? What do we do? What can we do? We can easily extend it. All you have to do is send us a message via Udemy, or shoot us an email, info@hadoopinrealworld.com, along with your user ID. So we can definitely extend your access for another 6 months or whatever, right? So initially 6 months, but definitely if you wanted more, just send us a message, and we can extend your access. Okay. What else? What else I got here? Okay, is Hadoop or MapReduce programming required? Because Hive, tools like Hive or Pig, tools like Hive or Pig does all the job, right? That is an interesting question. Okay, so let's try to answer that question. So yes, tools like Pig or Hive, they are created. And why they are created? The main reason we have those tools is to help like non-programmers to work with Hadoop, right? But can they do anything and everything that a Hadoop or like a MapReduce programming can do? Probably not, especially when your data is very complex. Let's say it's very nested and it doesn't follow a certain way where Pig tries to work with the data, right? And even Pig supports complex types like bags, tuples, maps, and all that. But what if your data is so complex, right? Let's say your data is so hierarchical, right? Or your data set is PDF files or something like that. Even in our example, in one of our lectures, we see like the time machine project which was implemented at New York Times, where they take text files and convert them into PDFs, right? So in such cases, there are scenarios like when your data set is very complex and when your data set is hierarchical, when you're dealing with whole files, a MapReduce programming could give you better handle on the problem. Okay, but not to say Pig and Hive cannot be used for complex tasks. Definitely not, right? But you have to prep the data first before you can use it. Use it with Pig or Hive. Okay, so that is one thing, right? And even with Hive, you can use different formats. That is totally possible. The same thing with the same thing with Pig as well. For example, even in our course, we use an XML data set, right, to use it along with Pig. But remember what we did. We had to write a pig load function to parse the XML to get the values we need. So there is some preparation of data that is needed when you work with Pig or even with Hive. The same thing with Hive, right? Because we created a SERDI in Hive when we were trying to process the Twitter data set. That is again in our in one of the chapters, in one of the Hive chapters, right? And the second thing is when it comes to optimization, right? Any Pig script or Hive queries are going to be translated into MapReduce jobs. All right. So it has to go through a phase. You write a Pig script, and the tool Pig, it's going to read the instructions, analyze it, and it's going to transform those into MapReduce jobs. Okay. And you have very little control on the transformation. So there could be, and Pig does a good job of optimizing your instructions and all that, but when you have complete control on the on coding, on programming a MapReduce program, you can do down to the bone, right? You can optimize the way you like. So that is another nice thing about writing your own MapReduce code. You have much more flexibility, you have much more control on the code. Okay, all right. Okay, what is can we implement? Let me see. Yes. What if you have like doubts or issues working in a real project? Certainly, bring it up, right? It is not just for everyone can participate in, right? So the students who are enrolled in the course, you guys are here. You guys are, you can interact as well. You can interact with other students as well, right? Through you can create a discussions, and other students even can pitch in, try to help you out, try to answer the questions, right? Yes. Yeah, structured and okay. So one of our students is saying Hive equals structured and MapReduce program equals unstructured data. More or less, what I'm trying to say is you would need to have some kind of programming to help out Pig if you are trying to work with unstructured data, right? Whereas MapReduce program, of course, you can do anything you want, right? Because you have the data, you can do anything you want. Whereas Hive would need some programming help behind the scenes to prep the data so that Hive can work in a table column row fashion. Okay. All right. Okay, so one of our students is saying, I would like to know more about writing custom partitioners, how to copies to data node missions, any upcoming topics on streaming and Flume. Okay, so let me start with the third question. It's a three-part question. Okay, the first one is I would like to know more about custom partitioners. Yes, we can certainly cover about custom partitioners, right? For guys who doesn't know about partitioners, partitioner sits between like map and reduce, and it is looking at your key value pairs, and they're sending the key value pairs to the right reducers, right? And certainly we have to think about it. Coming up with a lecture on custom partitioners, right? So I'll take away that item with me. And the second question is how do we copy jar files to data node machines? Okay, and I mean, the first question I'm going to ask is why you would need to copy into data node machines, right? Because we usually don't do it in a real Hadoop environment. That's why. Because data nodes, data nodes, you have to leave the data nodes name nodes alone, right? If you're trying to execute a program, you usually have a node called edge node, which sits outside of a Hadoop cluster but has access to the Hadoop cluster. And you copy any MapReduce programs or jars or pig scripts or Hive scripts to execute on the edge node. Well, the edge node is going to have access to the cluster, and it copies the jar over. So we don't manually copy jars and things into certain data nodes, because in a real Hadoop environment, we are talking about tens or potentially hundreds of nodes, right? So you want every single data node to be configured and look identical, for troubleshooting. So you don't want to copy things into data nodes on the fly. Okay. The third question is any upcoming topics on Hadoop streaming and Flume. Okay, so I'm going to save that for my next slide. I'm going to save that question for the next slide. Okay. Next question. I love this question. Will Spark replace MapReduce? Not at the moment, I would say, because a lot of companies are adapting towards Hadoop. The companies who are thinking about going into the big data space, and almost all the companies want to get into the space, right? Because they see the potential that they can do with big data. So Hadoop is a great starting point for them. Spark is not yet a starting point for companies who want to get into big data space. Okay, so for now, Spark is not going to replace Hadoop. All right, but Spark, yes, it is definitely faster than Hadoop, right? It is more real-time processing than MapReduce. So there is a potential for a takeover, right? There is definitely a potential for takeover. But to be very honest, when I started working in Hadoop, right, only the companies who are overreaching, they would go and implement a Hadoop cluster, right? But these days, we get consulting calls like quite often from companies who are big, but now they wanted to get into the big data space, and the starting point is Hadoop for them, right? And they will slowly progress there, from Hadoop to a NoSQL database. They will add that to their infrastructure, and then they will look at Spark as a small implementation, and possibly a big future cluster in the days to come, right? So that's my answer on that. Can there be a lecture about latest trends in big data? Example, what are the tools that are similar or better than Pig or Hive? What programming language is good to learn if we have to start now with big data? I think there is definitely scope for a lecture like that. I like the idea. Let me take a note of that. Okay. We can certainly have a topic or an ongoing kind of a lecture where we can talk about upcoming tools that are in play. Watch out for this tool, right? I think that is certainly a good recommendation, Manish. Thank you so much for that. We'll try to put something together on that. I'm not sure whether it will fit inside the course, or maybe we can, whenever we see something new, we can communicate to you guys or write a blog about that. I think that would be I think we will definitely look into that. Thanks, Manish. That's a good suggestion. Um, if you wanted to learn a programming language for big data, I would say definitely start with Java because it's easy to learn. And you can get help easily for for Java programming, right? So definitely start with Java. Okay, and Spark is there is great Scala support for Spark. So if you already know Java, definitely go into try to learn Scala, and it's upcoming and very hot. Python, definitely yes. Most of the data analysts and even like people who are not like hardcore programmers, they know Python. So definitely Python is a great tool. Thank you, Syed, for that. Yes. um Akash is asking a question. Best NoSQL database. Okay. Best NoSQL database, I think it has to be Cassandra for me, because HBase, I think it's too heavy in my opinion. So definitely Cassandra is definitely a good tool to look at. Yes, I think that's my opinion, because it has no single point of failure. Um, so definitely Cassandra. Yeah. What other questions do we have? Any other questions? All right, cool. So the next thing I wanted to show is, let me share my screen now. Okay. All right. So course updates, right? What is upcoming in our course? And let me just backtrack a little bit. Rewind a couple months. November 2015. That's when we went live with the course. Okay. So December 2015, we created one lecture on EMR and a chapter on Scoop. Okay, so if you completed the course, if you're in November, do check out the course curriculum. You would see the EMR lecture inside cluster setup, and you would see a separate chapter on Scoop. Okay, if you're not sure what Scoop is, almost every single company who has an IT department has a database. Okay, and any company who wants to invest in big data technologies like Hadoop, they need data to start with, right? So where can they get the data from? They can definitely go get it from their database, right? So that's what Scoop is doing. Scoop can help move the data from a relational database system like MySQL, Oracle, MS SQL, or sorry, SQL Server, tools like that, traditional RDBMS tool, and move into HDFS/Hadoop, right? It can also do the other way around. It can push data from HDFS back into traditional databases. So that is also possible. All right. So that is December 2015. Okay. So January 2016, we had to expand our cluster, right? So if you notice, our cluster was running out on space, and a couple of our students has issues when they were trying to work out exercises and all that, right? So we had to expand the space on the cluster. We didn't add more nodes to it, because what we have right now is good, but we had to expand more space on our cluster. So we did that, and we are working on a chapter on Flume. I think Manish was asking the question, how about a chapter on streaming/Flume? And it is coming, right? We were supposed to complete the chapter by this month, but we are running late on it. But we'll definitely get it over in the beginning Feb. Okay, so Flume is definitely on the way, and Feb 2016, that is next month, we will have Flume in the course, added to the course, and then we'll have Uzi, and we'll be starting to work on a chapter on Uzi, right? So Uzi is an orchestration tool. I mean, if you guys are not familiar with Flume, Flume is basically a log movement tool, right? When companies started to invest in Hadoop, the first the first data they wanted to tackle is the log files, right? So how you can stream logs as it comes in, or as it is written by the application into Hadoop, that is what Flume is going to do, and that is what Flume is going to help us with. It can also do some fancy stuff, right? You can also listen to like live stream, for example, from Twitter. And we're going to in our chapter, we're going to have a lecture on how you can stream the data from Twitter as well on Flume. Oozie is an scheduling / orchestration tool, because we have so many tools in the Hadoop ecosystem, right? So let's say you want to run a MapReduce job, and you want to, after this MapReduce job, you want to run a pick script, and after this pick script, you wanted to run an insert, run a MapReduce job and insert a Hive table at the same time. So you can have like chaining jobs and orchestrate the whole ETL process in Hadoop, or the whole or your entire process in Hadoop. It can also be used as like a monitoring tool. You can also send like emails and things like that. So a lot of good things coming in Oozie, right? So we'll cover that. So in Feb 2016. So that's what we have in the pipeline. For now, and then in our next update, we'll have even more. Okay. Any questions here? Let me just go back. Any questions on the course updates at all? Okay, I think that is very clear, right? And we are planning to have a lot of sessions like this, right? So this is not going to be the only session that you will have. As we go forward, I think we'll add a lot more chapters to the course. The course is going to be live, and it's going to be a growing community. Again, use the discussion place in Udemy, and you can actually start a discussion. If you have an interesting a topic that you want to discuss with others, you can start a discussion, and others can chime in as well. It's not just like student instructor kind of a place, but other students can pitch in as well. So if someone else is asking a question, and if you know the answer, you can pitch in. Or if someone else is coming up with a great idea, and if you guys wanted to discuss on the topic, you can definitely do that as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. So I think we are coming to a close on this. Do you guys have any additional questions for me? Okay. I think, how are you planning to use your Facebook page? Manish, that's a great question. So the question here is, Manish is asking, how are we planning to use our Facebook page, right? It depends, right? I mean, we were using it to post any kind of when we come up with a new blog post, or when we come up with a tutorial series, we used to post topics in the Facebook page, and we get good user engagement there. But lately we are focusing more on our Google page, right? So if you go plus.google.com/plus Hadoop in real world. So let me just type that in here. So plus.google.com/plus Hadoop in real world. You can find all our updates there. Okay, you can hold on one second. Let me just send it to everyone here. All right, hope you got that right. So you can go there, and it's convenient for us because even this Hangout session, it is notified on our Google page, right? anything that we whenever we come up with a YouTube video, it automatically feeds our Google page. So it's one it's one place where we can monitor the whole thing. But it's not to say that we're not going to do anything with Facebook. We want to be consistent with all the platforms as well. But definitely, if you go to plus.google.com/plus Hadoop and real world, do follow us. Anything that we post, it's going to hit Google first and then other social platforms, because YouTube is integrated with Google. Our Hangouts is integrated with Google, with Google, obviously, right? Because it is a Google platform. So definitely go there and click follow, so you get notified, right? Even if you miss an email from us, or anything that even if you missed anything that we post, you can definitely get notified if you follow us in Google. Okay. Any other questions? All right, guys. A final thank you, right? We want to we want to do the best for our students, right? That is why we have sessions like this when when other courses are not even doing it, right? And that is why we update our courses so often when other courses don't even touch the courses when they go live, right? So we want to do the best for you guys. And I want to thank you guys for joining this session, and also a special thank you for your awesome reviews. And this is great, right? And we have such detailed reviews. We are so grateful for that. Do spend some time to read these reviews. These are awesome from real students. So we are so grateful for that. And we thank you. Thank you for those amazing reviews, right? And if you didn't get a chance to review, I'm going to ask you, please, take 2 minutes of your time to review us on, review the course on Udemy. So it's going to motivate us to serve you even better. That's the reason, and it's always nice to get great feedback from you guys. Okay, and for people who are really interested in the course, you can find the course at udemy.com/Hadoop in real world. That's our course, and the price is $249. But apply the coupon code starter kit, and you can get a $50 discount on the course. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate your taking the time from your weekend to join this session. We're going to definitely have a lot more sessions like this, and you will be notified. And definitely stay in touch. All right. Thank you guys so much.